Hello and welcome to this edition of the Shurley English Workshop Series. I'm Jamie Geneva and it's my pleasure to host this webinar featuring an introduction to writing, Shurley style. Let's begin with a big picture view of the curriculum. Shurley English has assembled a unique combination of features to help students build a solid literacy foundation. The curriculum has been organized logically, sequentially, and systematically for success, so that abstract language arts concepts can become clear and logical. The concrete multisensory strategies that support all types of learners help students make the connection between grammar, skills, writing, speaking and listening, and reading. Today's presentation will cover the fifth unique feature, writing. I will introduce you to the techniques we use to teach students. Shurley English gives students the tools they need to become competent, confident communicators. The curriculum was written with this end result in mind. So let's analyze how Shurley English moves your students to this level of writing proficiency. Shurley English instruction supports students throughout the writing process in many ways. Allow me to share just a few of them. First of all, our writing lessons use student-friendly writing scaffolds that pave the way for exceptional writing. Scaffolding is a step-by-step process that provides students with sufficient guidance until the writing process is learned. Then, the teacher will gradually remove the supports so that students can complete the writing process on their own. Our curriculum also develops the effective traits of writing so that students know how to apply them successfully. Our curriculum supports students by providing detailed graphic organizers. This technique helps students gather and group their ideas on paper in a visual format during pre-writing. Shurley English instruction teaches revision and editing strategies. Students will learn to revise and edit individually, with a partner, and sometimes in a group. It's our goal to help students make the connection between grammar and writing skills so they can write with confidence. Let's talk a little bit more about writing scaffolds. Shurley English students receive direct, systematic instruction in daily grammar, writing traits, and writing for a specific purpose and audience. Many opportunities will be provided throughout the grade levels as students learn to write narratives, informational pieces, opinion, persuasive, and argumentative pieces. Shurley English sets students up for a successful writing experience by teaching them how to work through the writing process. The 6 steps in the writing process are pre-writing, rough draft, revising, editing, final paper, and publishing. Following these basic steps, students learn to organize their thoughts and expand them into sentences, paragraphs, and essays. Come along and let me show you the writing process. Shurley English teaches students that writing is a process, and each step of the writing process has its own set of requirements. To meet those requirements, writing checklists are provided to help students apply concepts effectively. Students will be provided with a pre-writing checklist, a rough draft checklist, a revising checklist, an editing checklist, a final paper checklist, and a publishing checklist. Step 1 in the writing process is pre-writing. During this step, students learn to gather and organize their ideas. Initially, students must decide how they want their writing to affect their reader and who their primary reader will be. Knowing the purpose and audience is important to determine before writing begins. The purpose for the writing determines the type of writing. Shurley English teaches all of the different purposes for writing throughout the various levels. As I mentioned earlier, students will be given a checklist to follow for each step of the writing process. Here's a glimpse of what the pre-writing checklist looks like. Before a student begins to write, they must determine their purpose for writing. Each purpose for writing is categorized by its genre. Take a look at this example. The student has decided that they would like to explain or inform the reader about something. This purpose or genre for writing is called expository. The main purpose of expository writing is to inform. Students will learn to use expository writing to inform, to give facts, to give directions, to explain, or to define something. The pre-writing checklist will help students recognize their audience next. To determine their audience, they will ask themselves two things: who will be my primary reader, and what topic can I write about that would be of interest to them? Afterwards, students will move to the next step on the checklist and choose their topic. The question they will ask themselves is, what can I write about? This pre-writing step encourages students to brainstorm for ideas and to think about the possibilities for main points to discuss. Afterwards, the student can pick the topic that they think they can best develop. Look at the middle of the page first. As you can see, the student brainstormed topics before determining the one they wanted to write about. Then, at the top of the page, they listed the topic they chose. Afterwards, they wrote down the purpose for their writing and the type of writing selected. In this example, the student is writing to their classmates. Their topic is My Favorite Zoo Animals. Their purpose for writing is to inform, which means the type of writing is expository. As the pre-writing checklist continues, the student learns to narrow their topic before gathering and organizing their details. The writer must determine what he wants to say about his topic and narrow his focus to one idea. Then he will brainstorm to gather details that develop his main points. Now he can organize his main points and details to present his information to his audience. As they gather information and details about their topic, students will use a graphic organizer to organize their ideas on paper in a visual way. Here is an example of a pre-writing map. As you can see, students learn to develop main points and supporting details for their topic. This student's topic is his favorite zoo animals. The three main points he will discuss are lemurs, prairie dogs, and flamingos. Students learn to spend ample time generating and organizing their ideas, which will make the next step of the writing process even easier. Let's take a look at it. Step 2 in the writing process is the rough draft. During this phase of the writing process, students use ideas from their graphic organizer to write the rough draft. Every good writer knows that the rough draft is never the best draft, so they don't worry about mistakes during this phase. They will make improvements later. Students will learn to follow the rough draft checklist as they compose their first writing attempt. The first 4 items on the rough draft checklist will teach students how to organize their rough draft. Number 1 instructs them to write with a pencil on notebook paper. Number 2 instructs them on what should be included in the heading of their paper. In number 3, students are taught to skip the next line between the heading and the beginning of their paper. Number 4 teaches students to skip lines between their writing, so they will have built-in space available for revisions and edits in the next steps of the writing process. They are also instructed about the format of their writing. The effective traits of writing are emphasized as students begin to write their rough draft. The first trait is ideas. Students will transfer their ideas from their pre-writing map into complete sentences, which will include the details that support their main points. The second trait is organization. Students are taught to develop an engaging introduction, a powerful body, and a strong conclusion. Each paragraph they write should have a clear topic sentence with their sentences and paragraphs unfolding in a logical order. Students are taught to use transition words to connect their ideas and give their writing flow. The third effective trait of writing is word choice. Students are taught to improve the content of their writing with precise nouns and verbs and vivid adjectives and adverbs. They are taught to use prepositional phrases to add more details and description. Writing trait number 4 is voice. Students are taught how to express their unique writing voice through their choice of words. They need to consider their purpose and audience, so they use appropriate words and expressions. The fifth trait of effective writing is sentence fluency. Students are taught to keep their readers' attention and help them focus on important ideas by using a variety of sentence types. Varying the length of sentences will assist them in emphasizing important ideas. Also, as students learn the different sentence patterns, they will give their writing variety. The sixth trait of effective writing is conventions. Here, students will focus on using good capitalization, punctuation, spelling, homonyms, plural forms, subject-verb agreement, and grammar. Students will learn to transition from step 1 of the writing process into step 2, where they will write a rough draft. A rough draft is the first attempt at writing ideas generated using a graphic organizer in complete sentence form in an organized and logical way. A common way to organize an expository paragraph is to use a 3-point organizational structure. The organizational structure of a 3-point paragraph presents the 3 main points or main ideas the student decided to write about in step 1 and develops them with supporting sentences. Stating each main point followed by the supporting sentences for the main point creates a writing structure that is clear and understandable to the reader. Clarity and organization are major goals during this step of the writing process. Shurley English helps students write their rough draft by providing them with an outline for their paragraph or essay. Utilizing transition words helps to connect thoughts together while they organize their ideas and give their writing flow. Shurley English teaches a transition word jingle to help students learn and memorize transition words. These important words help writers give their writing flow, organize their ideas, and transition from one thought to the next. The transition words in the jingle are organized into categories, and learning the jingle will help your students commit them to memory. I'll demonstrate the first few stanzas so you will get an idea of how the jingle sounds when you chant it. You can also listen to the pre-recorded jingles on our YouTube channel later. The jingle goes like this. Ah, listen, comrades, and you shall hear about transition words that make your writing smooth and clear. Transition words are connecting words. You add them to the beginning of sentences and paragraphs to keep your ideas spinning and give your writing flow. These words can clarify, summarize, or emphasize, compare or contrast, inform or show time. Learn them now and your writing will shine. Transition, transition for words that show time, first, second, third, before, during, after, next, then, and finally. Transition, transition for words that inform, for example, for instance, in addition, as well. Also, next, another, along with, and besides. I'm going to stop, but you get the idea. This jingle will help your students commit important transition words to memory. Transition words help students connect their ideas throughout the different parts of the writing piece. From the introduction to the main points, and from the supporting sentences to the conclusion, transition words are a key component used by writers in all types of writing. Let's take a look at a Shurley English writing outline. A writing outline is a tool students may use to move their ideas from their pre-writing map to their rough draft. The outline provides a visual aid to help students easily follow the steps and produce a well-organized paragraph or essay. Although students will learn that a topic sentence can be located anywhere in a paragraph, the topic sentence will be generated first using the writing outline. Since students have developed sentence fluency through Shurley English skill lessons, they will be encouraged to vary their sentences as they write. To write a topic sentence, students will use some or all of the words in the topic they have chosen to write about and add a general or specific number word that tells the number of points that will be discussed. Students will decide the sentence structure strategy they want to use in order to follow the steps to write a topic sentence. For example, your student may choose to write a compound sentence like this one that says, I have 3 favorite animals, comma, and I visit them at the zoo, period. Next, in sentence 2 of their paragraph, students will write a 3-point sentence. This sentence will state the 3 points in the order they will be presented in the paragraph. Notice how the 3-point sentence is written 3 different ways. Your student may choose to write a simple sentence like this one. The animals I enjoy watching most are lemurs, prairie dogs, and flamingos. After the topic sentence and the 3-point sentence have been written, students will begin writing the sentences for the body of their paragraph. Sentence 3 is called the first point sentence. Students will simply state their first point in complete sentence form. Now that students know how to write a complex sentence, you can expect to see them in their writing. They might write a complex sentence like this one to state their first point. It says, since lemurs are my favorite zoo animal, I visit them first. Sentence 4 is called the supporting sentence for the first point. This sentence will give details that support the first point sentence. It can explain or describe, but it must be about the first point. Your student might write a compound sentence like this one that says, lemurs look like monkeys, but they have a fox-like face, large eyes, and a bushy tail. Sentence number 5 is called the second point sentence. Students will learn to simply state their second point in complete sentence form. For example, you might see a simple sentence like this one. Another favorite zoo animal is the prairie dog, period. For sentence 6, students will learn to write a supporting sentence for the second point they decided to share about their topic. Of course, this sentence will give details that support the second point only. They may choose to write a complex sentence like this one that says, these short, bushy animals use a sophisticated bark so that they can warn other prairie dogs of approaching predators. Sentence number 7 will contain the third main point. Students will take the third point they decided to write about and simply state it in complete sentence form. They may write a compound sentence like this one that says, I admire the flamingo, semicolon, therefore, comma, I visit them next, period. Sentence number 8 will contain the supporting detail for the third point. It can explain or describe, but it must be in regards to the third point. Look at an example of a supporting sentence for the third main point. It's written as a simple sentence which says, it is amazing to see how these large tropical birds stand on one leg and never lose their balance. Using the Shurley English outline, sentence number 9 is called the concluding general sentence. This sentence restates the topic sentence by using some of the same words stated in a different way, or by saying the same thing with an additional thought. For example, this one says, since I love watching my favorite animals, comma, I must see them every time I visit the zoo. Now that the rough draft has been developed, students will learn to revise it. It's important for them to understand that revision is the third important step in the writing process. In this step, students will learn how to strengthen the content of their writing by making better word choices and improving their sentence fluency. Students will learn to follow the revising checklist to improve their writing by focusing on each of the effective traits of writing. First, they will learn to look back at their ideas to decide if they need to add or delete any details. Then they will check for any needed improvements in the organization of their writing. Students will learn to make sure they have a clear introduction, body, and conclusion with a topic sentence in each paragraph. They will learn to check to see that all of their details support their main ideas with logical order. Students will also learn to make sure that their writing is appropriate for their purpose and audience. Next, students will turn their attention to their word choices and learn to replace any weak words with more precise ones. They will also check to make sure their writing makes sense. The next effective writing trait they will assess during revision is voice. Students will learn to check if they have used the best choice of words to express their unique voice and expressions. The next step on the revision checklist requires students to check for sentence fluency. Students will make sure they have kept their readers' attention by focusing on important ideas and by using a variety of sentence types and links. The checklist will require that students make their revisions in the blank spaces of their rough draft. After revision, students will move immediately into Step 4, editing the rough draft. During editing, students will learn to correct mistakes in spelling, grammar, usage, capitalization, and punctuation. Students will follow the editing checklist to correct mistakes in the conventions of writing next. Of course, conventions are one of the effective traits of writing. The conventions include capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling, and grammar. When students find an editing mistake, they will learn to simply circle it and write the correction above it. Since revising and editing go hand in hand, each writing lesson incorporates a revising and editing schedule. The schedule includes a time for individual revising and editing, partner revising and editing, and finally, peer evaluation. Moving right along, let's discuss the fifth step of the writing process, the final paper. During this step, students will learn to compose a neat, corrected copy of their writing piece for the purpose of publishing or sharing it. Don't forget, students will be provided with a final paper checklist to guide them through the steps for writing their final copy. They will also be given a student writing rubrics to help them keep the effective traits of writing in mind as they review their work. Our curriculum includes student writing rubrics for each type of writing. Students will check their writing to see if they've met the requirements for each section. They need to make sure they have clear main points to support their topic, including relevant supporting details. Students should also check to see if their writing is developed in a logical order that makes sense and includes transition words to give their writing flow. When it comes to ideas, students will check to make sure that their writing topic is appropriate and clear. They will ensure that they include relevant main points with supporting details. To check for organization, the rubric will help students check their writing for an organized introduction, body, and conclusion. It will also help them make sure each paragraph contains a main point with supporting details that are aligned for their purpose and audience. The rubric will ensure that students check to see that their word choices paint a vivid mental picture in the minds of their readers. The rubric will help students check their voice. They will learn to reread their paper to ensure that their writing reflects their personality and feelings. The next check on the rubric is for sentence fluency. Students will check their writing to make sure they have combined short, choppy sentences and have rewritten long, rambling ones so that their writing is easy to follow. They will also check to make sure their writing is connected and flows with transition words. Students will edit their work for the conventions of writing, including errors in capitalization, punctuation, usage, spelling, and grammar. They'll correct any sentences with run-ons, fragments, or comma splices. Formatting is next on the rubric. Students will review the format of their writing piece, making sure that they have followed standard guidelines in order to produce a neat, easy-to-read copy. Finally, the rubric will help students evaluate their writing piece to make sure it is interesting and appealing to their audience. They will also assess whether or not their details paint a mental picture of what they are explaining. Teachers will have their own rubric for each writing genre. The rubric will help teachers authentically monitor a student's learning process and develop and revise a lesson plan. They provide excellent assessment opportunities. Of course, using the rubrics during your writing conferences can help you show each student their writing successes as well as any areas where they may need to concentrate to improve their writing. Now let's return to the final paper checklist. Once students have completed number 5, using the student rubric to make a final check of their paper, they will put their pre-writing map, rough draft, and the final paper they have written in their final paper folder to be graded. Here's an example. You might recognize it. It's the student's final paragraph about his favorite animals to visit at the zoo. Notice that simple sentences are colored white, compound sentences are colored yellow, and complex sentences are in orange print. After you have taught sentence fluency skills, it is important to require your students to apply them in their writing pieces. Now it's time to take a look at the 6th step in the writing process, publishing. During this step, students will share their writing with others. The publishing checklist will help students know what to do in order to share their writing with others. An oral presentation is a natural way to share writing. Guidelines for an oral presentation are included in our curriculum. Now that students have used the writing process to create a 3-point paragraph, they will transition easily into writing 3-paragraph essays. First of all, students will view the visual aid to see the additional sentences required. An essay contains an introduction, body, and conclusion, just like a paragraph. Even though the same elements of the paragraph are contained in the essay, the structure changes. Here is one way to make this structural change. The first paragraph contains the introduction. The second paragraph has the body of the writing, including the main points and supporting details. The third paragraph concludes the writing piece. Students will repeat the writing process every time they develop a piece of writing. Step 1 is always pre-writing. Notice how this student used the pre-writing map to generate and organize ideas for a 3-point paragraph essay. The topic they selected is My Favorite Zoo Animals. During step 2 of the writing process, students will use a sentence outline to help them move ideas from the pre-writing map to the rough draft. The outline will provide a step-by-step guide to write each sentence of the introduction, body, and conclusion of their 3-paragraph essay. Then students will continue to follow the steps of the writing process to revise, edit, write a final paper, and publish their 3-paragraph essay. Allow me to read this example of a 3-paragraph essay to you, which was created from our original paragraph. Pay attention to the underlined sentences. I have 3 favorite animals to visit when I go to the zoo. These particular creatures are so unique. I could watch them for hours. The zoo animals I enjoy most are lemurs, prairie dogs, and flamingos. The lemur is my favorite animal, therefore I visit them first. Lemurs are unique because they look like monkeys but have a fox-like face, large eyes, and a bushy tail. The lemur's bushy tail helps them balance as they leap from tree to tree. Another favorite zoo animal is the prairie dog, so I visit them next. These short, bushy animals use a sophisticated bark to warn other prairie dogs of approaching predators. Their calls can be heard nearly a mile away. Finally, I admire the flamingo. It is amazing to see how these large tropical birds stand on one leg, but they never lose their balance. Surprisingly, they can hold this posture for hours at a time. Since I love watching my favorite animals, I must see them every time I visit the zoo. Even though I try to visit all the major exhibits, I spend most of my time watching the lemurs, prairie dogs, and flamingos. The underlined sentences are the details that were added to expand the paragraph. When you work through the steps in the writing process, the end result is a polished 3-paragraph essay. Shurley English teaches the writing process in such a logical, sequential way that students can easily learn to expand their 3-paragraph essay into a 5-paragraph essay. To do this, all they have to do is add a few more details. You can see, using this visual aid, that the introduction is still the first paragraph, the conclusion is still the last paragraph, but the body of the paragraph has been expanded so that each main point now commands its own paragraph. The same pre-writing map is used for the 5-paragraph essay. Students will simply follow the organizational structure of the sentence outline as they transfer their information from the pre-writing map to their rough draft. As students develop their 5-paragraph essay, they will follow the 6 steps in the writing process as usual. Students will pre-write, write the rough draft, revise, edit, write a final paper, and publish their writing. Take a look at this fabulous 5-paragraph essay, which has been expanded from our 3-paragraph essay. Again, notice the underlined sentences. These sentences are the details that have been added to expand each paragraph in the essay. This step-by-step process has given your students the ability to take an idea and write a basic paragraph. Then they can turn around and turn that paragraph into a 3-paragraph essay. From there, it's simple to expand the 3-paragraph essay into a detailed 5-paragraph essay. Before we conclude today's webinar, I want to make sure that you know about the Shurley English Writing Folder. It's available to help your students move through the writing process with ease. This fold-out 4-pocket folder keeps students organized with a dedicated space for their pre-writing, rough draft, revised draft, and edited paper. It is packed with handy references, checklists, and tips to ensure students have exactly what they need to produce a polished piece of writing. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about how to teach writing Shurley style. When students develop a solid foundation in grammar, skills, and writing, they can communicate with more competence and confidence. I encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, where we have numerous videos to help you as you start your language arts journey with Shurley English. For more information about our curriculum, please visit our website at www.shurley.com.